interesting meeting. Was that last week? Yes, last week with the
Selectmen?
yes, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Where we talked about this pyramid.
Right.
And I'd like to just go over that. It became very clear to us that the Board of Selectmen, through a lot of effort on their part,
Yes.
and really want to recognize not only the entire Board of Selectmen, but in particular the chair, Bob Messeri, who has worked, I think, tirelessly with not just the Board of Selectmen, but the town manager, and also on a finance planning committee, and the finance committee, to first close the gap between the available funds budget, which was short of the status quo budget originally by $400,000. And the committee remembers that we were charged with reducing our status quo budget to comply with the available funds. And that would have meant layoffs, close to 8 different positions. The committee also took a vote to increase athletic user fees to generate $35,000 worth of new revenue to help close that gap. But the Board of Selectmen, through budget adjustments on both sides, town primarily, but also on the schools with the athletic budget, determined that there was sufficient money to close that gap. And so we went into this Board of Selectmen meeting 2 weeks ago with basically having the status quo budget be equal to the amount of available funds. Then the committee also, the school committee knew that there were 3 levels of priority that the school committee and the school department were looking for above and beyond the status quo budget. And priority 1 at an amount of $373,000 would hire 7.5 positions. And we made a very strong case that those positions were targeted toward making sure that the status quo budget, that the foundation of this school district could stay intact and that there'd be no further erosion. And so priority 1 would address unmet student needs and programs in reading, in special education, both at the elementary level. It would address our growing need in English language learners, or supporting English language learners, and would address high school programs and high school class size in core academic areas by hiring additional teachers in the core areas, 3 additional teachers. So that was priority 1. Priority 2, about $308,000, hired an additional 6.5 teachers. And at priority 2, there was an effort made to restore programs that were cut last year. Music, art, physical education, health, and by and large, by restoring those programs, band and chorus, the loss in learning time would be restored. So the Wednesday afternoons, there would be no need to continue with that. And by the way, with this compliance audit that's coming up, we had to resubmit our time and learning for each school, each level, elementary, middle, and high school. And so we validated, that is the Administrative Council again validated, we are just over the 900 hours in our elementary level And with those study halls, we are very much borderline of not even making $900.
That's the middle school?
Yes. The middle school is, you label your schools for time and learning as either secondary at $990 or elementary. There's no in between. So the state either says it's $990 or it's $900. So when time and learning first came onto the scene and when ed reform was passed in the early 90s, we chose to classify our North Reading Middle School as an elementary school. And we classified it as a secondary school, we would clearly be out of compliance. So it is critical to deal with the time and learning, but I believe that we are minimally in compliance here as a school. Whereas, again, some students are falling behind that. And by the way, a comment came up at the open meeting at Town Hall about some students in the 6th grade having 3 study halls. And I know that this happened back in February for a brief period of time, and I spoke with the principal, Mr. Hodges, about making sure that on that G block students were having that double math or English class. Apparently, in the recent midterm, they actually went back to, so that was correct. I was not aware of it. I did speak with Mr. Hodges and said, we cannot have that. Cannot have that. You're out of compliance. Cannot allow that to happen. So we will make sure that that is not happening. So priority 2 then restores programs, music, art, physical education, restores the learning time. Priority 3 does further restoration. These were all cuts in June. Remember, we cut over 10 positions in June. So I do understand the pain that the town was faced with on the town side, municipal side, when they were confronted with the possibility of reductions. But from a school standpoint, we've been dealing with this for a while. It's very difficult. I understand the challenge. I understand what each one of the principals and department heads has had to deal with here over the last year. And so it takes a lot of careful discussion and planning. But priority 3 restores the libraries to full capacity, the computer labs to full capacity, restores the high school physical education as an elective, and also continues to deal with class size. So those were the 3 priorities that I had presented. When we came out of the meeting with the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen made adjustments on the municipal side to support priority 1, $375,000 plus the necessary health benefits, because that is covered by the town side, to deal with priority 1. And that would have meant no override at that point through priority 1.
Right.
However, there was then discussion to what would it take to get priority 2 and priority 3, and also to restore some of the potential cuts made on the town side. And that led to a discussion about what an override would look like, and I believe arrived at a figure that was over $1 million.
I think it was 1.1 and 1.2.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that's what came out of that meeting. So at this point, the next day, Carl Nelson worked with the Joe Tassoni to determine exactly what the budget will look like in the warrant. And you should have, I think, that sheet.
This right here?
David?
Yes. And those are the figures. keeping in mind that a lot of work had to be done by, there were a lot of ins and outs on this, in terms of Carl working with Mr. Tassoni in terms of getting everything set. But we believe that this is how it will appear in, excuse me, in the warrant, that there will be, where it says Prop 2.5 limit, then that's really the available funds.
Right.
And then there's an override, the override amount.
So when you use the word available funds, it now includes status quo and priority one?
Yes.
Those have been made available?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
So regardless of what happens, those funds have already been committed to the school department?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, as long as town meeting
Right.
approves.
Well,
Right.
as long as town meeting approves.
Priority one
right.
with the benefits
Right,
associated.
so when you see the column that's labeled FY09, Prop 2 and 1/2 limit, that figure, the 22,107,729, includes the status quo plus additional money to
Good, get to
a
priority.
priority one.
And the benefits are then added into the general government
Yes.
piece, not here. Okay, that's why my numbers got matching.
So, on Friday, and I know we've been, that is through our finance planning team, there has been a lot of interest in making sure that the numbers that go into the calculation of available revenue are very accurate. For example, all of the work done to identify the Chapter 70 money. And I think we have, through the efforts of North Reading United for Education and Stand for Children, have done tremendous work in working with Representative Jones and Senator Tarr to really lock in what those numbers are. And Representative Jones, at that open meeting at Town Hall, said pretty much the numbers that you see for Chapter 70 are pretty much the numbers that will be. But one of the big unknowns, and this has always been stated by the town administrator in any of the reports, one of the unknown questions about revenue has been what will be the health insurance increase for FY09. If you go back to the fall, when our finance planning team got its regular update on revenue, the projections always stated 15% increase. Anticipate a 15% increase in health benefits. So that was used as the standard, very conservative, to project available revenues, which is part of the reason why we had that gap between status quo budget and available revenue that was $400,000 off. There was then a feeling as different, we in our health benefits, we participate in the Mass Interlocal Insurance Association, MIIA, and but different communities have different rate increases that are set. And so, as about a month ago, the town administrator reported that that he had some level of confidence that we could lower that, or he could lower that increase. I won't say it, but the town sets it from 15 to 12%. Now, every percent drop in the insurance increase is about $43,000 to $45,000. So by going from 15 to 12%, generated some potential for additional revenue savings. And that's what was built into closing the gap to get to that status quo. You'll see it on all of the publications and the presentations that Mr. Messeri made, because we all had confidence that instead of 15%, 12% would have been a better number. Well,